Hey, good morning, Active Church. My name is Casey, and I'm glad that you're watching here. Hey, if you're new, I would love for you to take a couple moments to just say you're new. Just type it in the comments section, and we'll have a leader reach out to you, or you can text the number on the screen, and we will make sure to get you guys a free gift. We love our new guests here at Active, and thank you for watching for the first time. But if you're a person that watches every week, we would love for you to share this, like this, and if you're watching on YouTube, subscribe to our channel. We have some great content there that's made with you in mind, and we would love for you to be a part of the journey that we're creating here on YouTube. But we have a great service planned for you guys. Pastor Mike has an amazing message about the future of Active Church that I'm very excited about, and we should all be very excited about. But before we get into that, I have some church news to share with you guys today. The first being that on October 16th, it will be First Step Sunday. This is for anybody that's newer to the church that wants to find out more about the heartbeat of Active and meet some of the team that's a part of making Active active. So we'd love to see your face there. It's at 10:15 on October 16th, in between our first service and our second service. And we would love to just get to know you and connect with you and help you find a place here at Active. And then coming up at the end of the month on October 31st, which is Halloween, we have Trunk or Treat happening. It is an amazing, extravagant event that we put on here on our campus. It's here at Active Church, and we would love for you to come join us. We're gonna have some awesome vendors. We're gonna have laser tag. We're gonna have an outside glow dance party. We're gonna have a bunch of trunks giving out so many pieces of candy, and we're gonna have some food trucks here for you guys to enjoy. So come, bring the family to a safe place that you know you're gonna have some fun. It would be an awesome time for you guys to join us. But also, if you want to help us out, if you want to be a part of what we're doing, not just attend it, there's a couple ways you can do that. Number one, you can bring candy any Sunday that you come here between now and the Trunk or Treat, or even during the week. We have some people in our offices that will be willing to put that in the area that we're storing our candy. But you can bring candy. We're gonna need lots of candy this year. Every year we need candy. We give out millions of pieces of candy every single year to each and every kid that comes here. We try to just stuff their bags full of candy. So we need your help. So donate candy if you can. Bring some candy each Sunday or during the week here at Active, and we'll have the team be able to store that for you. And the second way that you can help out with that is you can host a trunk, especially if you're someone that's very creative, loves to decorate, loves to go all out. This is your time to shine. So we'd love for you to come and deck out your trunk and hand out some candy on Trunk or Treat on Halloween. It is an amazing experience, and we'd love for you to join us. And finally, we have some new merch for sale in our lobby. You can come to our campus and purchase one of these shirts, the Nothing Like This shirt that has to do with Future of Active Sunday, which is happening today on campus and online. Or we have two other new shirts that are amazing shirts that are beautifully designed by our team here that you can come and rep Active Church in. It's an amazing quality shirt. We would love for you to come, check these out, and buy one of these t-shirts. And of course, all the money that gets made from these t-shirts goes to the mission and vision of what we're doing here at Active Church. And so thank you for those that are supporting us by buying merch and being a part of what Active is doing here. And finally, we're gonna get ready for Mike's message today. But before we do, would you join us in standing or however you get ready for worship, because we're gonna sing together.
Calm the storm that surrounds me. Just one word, the darkness has to retreat. Just one touch, I feel the presence of heaven. Just one touch, my eyes were open to see. My heart can't help but believe. There's nothing that our God can't do. There's not a mountain that He can't move. Oh, praise the name that makes a way. There's nothing that our God can't do. Just one word, you heal what's broken inside. praise the name that makes a way. There's nothing that our God can't do. Oh, there's nothing that our God can't do. There's not a prison wall he can't break through. Oh, praise the name that makes a way. There's nothing that our God can't do. I will believe for greater things. There's no power like the power of Jesus. Let faith arise, let all agree. There's no power like the power of Jesus. I will believe for greater things. There's no power like the power of Jesus. Let faith arise, let all agree. There's no power like the power of Jesus. And I will believe for greater things. There's no power like the power of Jesus. Let faith arise, let all agree. There's no power like his power. There's nothing that our God can't do. There's not a mountain that he can't move. Oh, praise the name that makes a way. There's nothing that our God can't do. Oh, there's nothing that our God can't do. There's not a prison wall he can't break through. Oh, praise the name that makes a way. There's nothing that our God can't do. There's nothing, there's nothing, there's nothing.
Hey, welcome to Active Church Online, everybody. My name is Mike Frisch. I serve as the lead pastor. And welcome to the future of Active Sunday. There is a musical artist named Macklemore, and he sang a song a few years ago called Good Old Days. And he sang about how he wished that somebody would have told him that the days that he had lived were the good old days. Because isn't it true that we can miss the good moments and the better stories that are taking place right here, right now, because we're so focused on what's next? Well, friends, I want you to pause. I want you to stop, and I want to let you know that we are living in the good old days. The stories that we're going to talk about in 5 and 10 years are the stories that are being written right now. And so I want to share just a couple of Active Church better stories with you. And I'm going to use some numbers to tell those stories. And I want you to know that I use these numbers because they help us to see what God is up to. And every one of these numbers represents a human, represents a person. It represents someone with a name. And that name is a story being told. Maybe it's someone that you know and you know their story, or someone that I know and I know their story, or someone's story being told and being written to be better here at Active. And every one of those stories, they belong to God. So here's some of the good old days stories that are taking place right now at Active Church. In the last 8 years, friends, we have seen over 1,100 people choose to get baptized at Active Church. Last week, we saw 13 friends, young and old, choose to get baptized. 2 friends, John and Echo, just got married in June and then decided to start their marriage off by surrendering to Jesus. How incredible is that? That is a miracle, friends. Over the last year, we've seen 520 connection cards, guest cards filled out. And those cards represent one person or an entire family. And so we've seen hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of people come to check out what God is doing here at Active Church. Every weekend, we average 1,000 people. There are 1,000 people on campus. And for those watching and for those listening, we have 300 to 400 devices that log on every single weekend to watch and to listen. And we're thankful and grateful for you. In this last year, we've seen people go through Rooted, and in our connection groups, over 350 people have decided to progress together, to be in intentional relationships together. And then maybe you've heard of the Dollar Club, especially if you've been around for a while. Over the last 5 years, friends, we have given away thousands of dollars. In fact, there have been 2 Sundays where we offered to you this opportunity and you responded. And there have been 2 Sundays where we raised $10,000 and we gave it away. We gave it away to the Best Buddies program at a local high school, and we gave the other $10,000 to a family that lost their home in a fire last Christmas. I share all of those stories with you, and there are more that I could share with you, but I want to bring to your attention that there is nothing like this. These are the good old days, friends. These are the stories that God is writing right here and right now. These are the stories that we're going to use as stepping stones to move into the future. There is nothing like the stories we're telling. There is nothing like the hope that we're providing, and there is nothing like the love that we're sharing, because there is nothing like Jesus. And I'm more convinced than ever, as I spend now my 21st year at Active Church and my 5th year as the lead pastor, I'm more convinced than ever that we can't keep these stories to ourselves, that we got to tell these stories. And when we tell these stories, we will see people respond, because the way of Jesus is irresistible. There is nothing like Jesus. And so today, I want to share what we can do next, how we can build the future together, you and me, how the story of Active can be a story that impacts not just the people that attend our church or watch online, but a story that can impact our communities in the Inland Empire and all of Southern California. Author Benjamin Hardy writes this about the future. He says, humans are not driven by the past. We're pulled forward by the future that we're most committed to. Today, I want to invite you to commit to the God dreams that He has placed in our hearts and on our minds. Commit to 3 things that we believe in 5 years we can achieve together. Because the future of Active, it includes you, and the future of Active, it needs you. So to get started, I want to wrestle with some questions, just privately, personally, invite you to wrestle with these questions, consider these questions before we dive in. As we talk about the future of Active, think about this. What would you do if you were confident that God was with you? What would you do if you were confident that God was with you? Would you do the thing that you're afraid to do? Would you go beyond the limits that you have created for yourself? Would you step into more courage and less fear? Would you connect your heart to your hand and know that God is going to take care of you on the back end? What would you do if you knew, you were confident that God was with you? That's a question we all have to wrestle with as we think about the future of Active. And as you're wrestling with that question, as you're considering that question, I want to share a very famous story from the life of Jesus, a true story that really happened with real people and a real Jesus. And it's a story that reminds us that there is nothing like the gospel of Jesus, the story of Jesus, the life of Jesus, the work of Jesus. There's nothing like Jesus. I want to share that story with you. I want to tease out what happened in that story. And then I want to invite you to use that story as a stepping stone together as we decide to build the future of Active. So if you have a Bible with you, or if you have access to the Bible app, I want to invite you to turn to the letter that Luke writes. Luke chapter 19, starting in verse 1. I want to read through this story, and then we're going to talk about 2 powerful things that take place. Luke 19, verse 1 reads this way. Jesus entered Jericho and was passing through. A man was there. His name was Zacchaeus. He was a chief tax collector, and he was wealthy. And he wanted to see Jesus, who he was, and wanted to see what he was about. But because he was short, Zacchaeus was short, he could not see over the crowd because there was always a crowd around Jesus. And so he ran ahead of the crowd and he climbed a sycamore tree so that he could see Jesus coming his way. And when Jesus reached the spot, I love this, he looked up and he said to Zacchaeus, "Come down immediately. I must stay at your house today." And so Zacchaeus came down at once and he gladly welcomed him. And all the people saw this and they began to mutter. That's gossip. They began to, under their breath, really frustrated. Jesus has gone to be a guest of a sinner. But Zacchaeus stood up and said to the Lord, "Lord, look, here and now, I will give half of my possessions to the poor, and if I've cheated anybody out of anything, I will pay 4 times the amount back to them." And Jesus said to him, "Today salvation has come to this house, because this man too is a son of Abraham. For the Son of Man," talking about himself, Jesus talking about himself, "has come in to seek and save what is lost." This is a really famous story, and maybe you've heard this story before. Maybe it's fresh to you. So let's talk about 2 things specifically. It's powerful for 2 reasons. The first reason is this. It's powerful because of Zacchaeus and his desire to see and know and discover and learn about this Jesus. And his desire for that was greater than anything he was doing in that moment, right? Luke tells us that he was a tax collector and he was wealthy. And in that time, the Roman government would hire Jewish men to be tax collectors. And there was a percentage that they had to tax their own people and then give that to the government. But the reason why Luke says that Zacchaeus is wealthy is because these Jewish men who were tax collectors, they not only would charge a percentage for the government, but then they could set a percentage for themselves. So in essence, what Luke is telling us in just a few words is that Zacchaeus was manipulative and taking advantage of his own people. He charged the regular tax, let's say it was 5% for the government, but then he would charge a personal tax, which might have been 20 to 25%. And he would pocket that resource. And get this, and there was nothing that the people could do about it because he had the scary Roman government behind him. Now, here's Zacchaeus, somebody who's manipulating his friends and his family, and he used it as a way to get rich. And maybe you hear this story, and you look at Zacchaeus and you ask this question, how could he do that? Why would he do that? Who would do that, right? But before we actually just throw down some judgment on him, could we just pause and consider what happens in our own lives? Isn't it easy for us to get stuck in a belief or to get stuck in a way of life or a way of thinking because it's familiar to us? It's how we were raised. It's what we learned. It's what we saw our parents or our guardians do. And so we just inherited that because we saw them do that. This is why a terrible parenting strategy sounds like this. Do as I say, not as I do. Because many of you parents know that your kids will do what they watch you do instead of just what you tell them to do. So if you want your kids to follow Jesus and love Jesus, they're going to watch how you do it. If you want your kids to be generous and give a tithe, they're going to watch how you do it. If you want your kids to love well and do what love requires, they're going to watch how you do it. I mean, we could spend all day talking about that. If you want your kids to become something better, they're going to watch how you do it right now. They're going to watch the good, and they're going to watch the bad. This is why we celebrate cycle-breaking decisions at Active Church, where many of you who are watching, who are listening, who attend on a Sunday, where many of you have decided, this ends with me. No longer will my family be like that, but my family is going to live with hope now. My family is going to live with love now. Breaking the cycle is choosing to unlearn the habits of the past and discovering new behaviors of the future. And that's hard, friends. It's hard, but it's possible. And God has given us the opportunity to learn new things in new ways through our surrender and trust in Jesus. And here's why this is necessary for our conversation about the future of Active. Did you know that in the surrounding areas, within 30 miles of Active Church, live 2.2 million people? And 1.7 million of them have indicated that they are living life without any sort of religious expression, without any sort of hope. They would indicate that they don't find and follow Jesus. They have no hope for today, and they have no hope for the future. They're just trying to get through the day. And when we live without hope, we choose what is familiar, don't we? Because it's our only constant in life. And that's what's happening in Zacchaeus' life. The only constant is what he learned, what he's doing. Get wealthy, take advantage, manipulate. And so he's doing that. But then something about Jesus caught his attention, and that's what's powerful about this story. The first thing that's powerful about this story. The second reason why this story is so powerful is all Zacchaeus needed was one encounter with Jesus. One moment with Jesus changed everything for him. I mean, let's just recap the story really quick. Zacchaeus heard about Jesus, saw a big crowd. He was short, couldn't see over the crowd, decides to climb a tree. Wealthy men with a lot of money don't climb trees, friends. I haven't seen many of them in trees lately. I don't know about you. Jesus stops, sees him, calls him down. That could have been an embarrassing moment, but Zacchaeus wasn't embarrassed. He's like, yeah, I'm coming down. Let's go to my house. Let's have a meal together. And we're not told what happens at that meal, but I'm going to take some guesses. What I think didn't happen at that meal was Jesus didn't sit down and go, okay, Zacchaeus, here's 5 ways to be a better tax collector so that you can do this in a really strategic and thoughtful way, make your money, but not take advantage of people. I think at that meal, Jesus didn't cast out Zacchaeus and lecture Zacchaeus. He didn't throw down guilt on Zacchaeus or shame on Zacchaeus. Jesus was just there. He was present. And I think maybe Luke was intentional in not sharing about the conversation that took place because maybe it was so personal and so powerful between Jesus and Zacchaeus that he didn't want to violate that private conversation. He just announces that Jesus decides to be present with Zacchaeus. And maybe Zacchaeus needed that so that he would know that he's worth being around. Because isn't it true that when we get stuck in really terrible beliefs and behaviors, that we start to convince ourselves that we're not worth being around? And the presence of Jesus said, hey, Zacchaeus, you're worth being present with. And you might have noticed in the story that people around Jesus and Zacchaeus were not thrilled that Jesus went to eat with him. They said, oh, he's gone to eat with sinners. And maybe they were just jealous because they were sinners that needed Jesus as well. But the point of the story, the powerful point of this story is that Zacchaeus just needed one encounter with Jesus, and it began to change everything for him. The presence of God has the power to change our present circumstances. And just having a meal with Jesus changed Zacchaeus. In fact, we get to read his words after the meal was over. He says, Lord, here and now I give half of my possessions to the poor, and if I've cheated anybody out of anything, which is kind of funny because he has. And so this is his way of just saying, listen, I know this happened and I'm going to be honest about it. I'm going to pay back 4 times that amount. Now, he's a good Jewish man. He lives in Israel, and so he would know the Torah, the law of God. And the law of God indicates that if you have taken something from someone, you give it back, and then you would add on 1/5 of what you've taken. But he stands up after his encounter with Jesus, and he says, I'm going to pay back what I stole, and then I'm going to multiply it by 4. Because he understands, like, I have hurt people, and just giving back what I have isn't going to solve the issue, but I want them to know that I'm different, I'm changed, not because I made a decision, but because Jesus made a decision to be present with me, and I responded with trust and surrender. We see that it changes him, because isn't it true that there's nothing like Jesus? There's nothing like his love, his way, his kingdom, the stories he tells. And Zacchaeus was confident that God was with him. And he started to live beyond the boundaries he set up, beyond the fears that he was struggling with, and he decided to live in a way that was so remarkable and so irresistible that Luke's like, I have to write about this story. That's the last time we hear of Zacchaeus. But he makes it into the scriptures because Luke felt like it was an important story to tell because of what happened in his life. What if this was our story? And not just our story, but their story. The 1.7 million surrounding us within 30 miles. What if this was their story? Because isn't it true that there's nothing like this? And that we got to share this? What if the story of Zacchaeus was the story that was told at Active, was the story that was told in our cities, was the story that was told all across the Inland Empire? Friends, this is why the future of Active is so important and why it matters. The decisions we make right now will dictate and determine the future of so many people. We exist as a church to help people meet Jesus and learn to follow Jesus. It's why we're here. And we believe that God has placed us here for such a time as this. So, because there's nothing like this, we have some God dreams. Because there's nothing like this, we want to accomplish some great things in 5 years. And so today I want to share those 3 big things with you and invite you to commit to the future of Active with us. I'm going to share the 3 things, and then I want to tease them out for you. Here they are. In 5 years, we believe that God will grow us to a church of 2,000 people on our Yucaipa location. In 5 years, we believe that God will be leading us to be a church with multiple locations. And in 5 years, we believe that God will allow us to be a church that's multicultural and multi-generational. So let's start with this campus. In 5 years, we believe that God will grow this campus to 2,000 on average every single weekend. Did you know that this campus has been around for 40 years? About as long as I've been alive. And it's been around for 40 years, and it's hosted thousands and thousands and thousands of people. Friends, a gathering of 2,000 on average every single weekend is an indication that there is nothing like this, and that you believe that because you're inviting friends and family to come and sit with you. And I need you to know that this place can handle that and so much more. We believe this campus is a gift from God. And we want to use this campus to its greatest capacity. It would be like having a great space at your house with like a really great barbecue or a smoker and then maybe a pool and a spa, but never cooking on the barbecue and never having anybody swim in the pool, but just looking at it. We look at this space and we're like, we got to use it to its greatest capacity because this building, this campus is a gift from God. And we want to continue to upgrade and make space and create an environment where people can find and follow Jesus. And we want to do that in an excellent way. Here's something we discovered recently. The number one reason why people have come to Active, the number one thing that has drawn them in, is they've driven by. Here we are trying to be really great on social media, and here we are trying to be really great in other areas, and it's because they drove by. And so we've driven by our building, and we've looked at our building every which way, and we believe that the front of our building does not reflect the power of the stories that are being told inside. And so we want to do some upgrades out front, make it look pretty, beautiful, attractive, but it actually tells the story of what's happening inside, and we want to accomplish that in the next 5 years. We want to do some work in the gazebo area. If you've been on our campus before, you know between our family building and the building that I'm standing in right now, there's a gazebo area, and it's awesome. It's open, and we want to cover that so that in the hot sun, but also in the cold winter months, which when it gets down to like 70 in Yucaipa, right? We want to cover that so that we can have continued gatherings of people, that they can make connections, and families could meet together and play together and have fun underneath that covering outside. We want to create an incredible outdoor space. And the thing that we've learned is we've had a lot of really generous people who have extended their talents to help us to create where we're at today, to build what we have today. But we know that our next phase, we need to bring in some professional help to be able to make things work in the best possible way. We want to keep improving our Active Kids space because it's growing, and we believe that the next generation is worth everything. And so we want a state-of-the-art play area for our kids, and we want to have extra space for small groups so that our kids can find and follow Jesus and hear about Jesus in a way that makes sense to how they think and how they process. We believe in 5 years we'll average 300 kids in Active Kids every single weekend. And in that time, we'll start a third service And we've seen how a third service can really be impactful because we've had a third service at Easter and we have filled this room to capacity. And in that time, it won't just be that we would have 2,000 on a weekend here, but we would also see the impact of what happens weekly. In 5 years, we want to see 1,000 people graduate from the Rooted expression at Active Church. Rooted, it's fantastic. You should be a part of it. It launches again at the first of the year. And we want to see over 2,000 people connect with each other and progress with each other in groups in the next 5 years. That's our first dream, that 2,000 people would be on this campus and that those stories would be stories of life change, life-giving hope, love of Jesus, because there's nothing like this. Because of that growth, we believe the second thing that we're dreaming about is that God would lead us to be a multi-campus church. And the reason why we believe that is because the most effective way to tell the story of Jesus is not inviting people to come and find you, but to go and find them, to go and be with them. We want to be personal, and we want to care, and want to be thoughtful. And so we want to be in the cities where God is moving, and bringing Active Church to those cities is really important to us. We win, friends, when we are present with each other. And because we're going to be multiple locations, we dream big of life change. Like in 5 years, we believe that 850 people, we want to see 850 people get baptized. And we know that this is possible because in the last 8 years, we've seen over 1,100. Maybe we need to dream bigger, friends. But that's a huge amount of life change because hope is attractive. And here's why we think multiple locations are so important, because every year, 3,700 churches close their doors. In fact, this year, 20% of churches will shut their doors. They'll sing their last songs. They'll take their last communion. They'll say their last goodbyes. They'll hear their last sermon. And I share that with you because we're a growing church. And that's a miracle in 2022. That's powerful in 2022. And we want to be a church that doesn't just limit itself to one city in one space, but begins to dream about what that might look like in the future. That's the second God dream. The third God dream is one I'm really excited about. In 5 years, we believe that God will allow us to be a church that is multicultural and multi-generational. And friends, it doesn't happen because we said it out loud. It happens because we are intentionally choosing to provide hope, to love each other. We want to love those that are young and those that are old, or maybe I'll use a better phrase, those that are mature with a lot of experience. We want to love those that look like us and sound like us and don't look like us or sound like us at all. We as a church, we choose to love. That's our posture. That's our way forward. That's how we're going to choose to live, because that's the way of Jesus. And friends, when love wins, God is honored. And when we see people that look like us and sound like us, and we also see people here at Active that don't look like us or sound like us, that's when we know heaven has come to earth. John, the disciple, got a vision of heaven, and he wrote about it in a letter called Revelation in the Scriptures. And here's what he said. Revelation 7:9, I looked, and there before me was a great multitude that no one could count, from every nation, tribe, people, and language, standing before the throne and before the Lamb. And they cried out in a loud voice, salvation belongs to God who sits on the throne and to the Lamb. This is what heaven looks like. Heaven isn't filled with people that look like me and sound like me only. Heaven is filled with all different types of backgrounds and stories and skin colors and languages and perspectives. And they're all turning their attention to Jesus. They've trusted in the work of the cross and the resurrection. And that's what we want to be about at Active, and continue to be about that. And we want multi-generational, multicultural expressions here at Active Church, because Jesus is for everyone, friends. And that is a reminder when we show up and we see different faces and stories. It reminds us that Jesus is for everyone. And it happens when we decide to be intentional in our relationships. And so we believe in 5 years that the Dollar Club that we've been practicing over the last couple of years will not just be something that we do every once in a while, but it'll be our intentional hand into our communities, how we provide hope in a very financial, resourced way. We believe in 5 years we could give away $300,000 to help others find hope, to help others be impactful, to help others live in their passions. We want to be a resource to our communities. We see in the next 5 years, Active Church being a place where we intentionally set aside Sundays and we talk about fostering and adopting. Because James, the brother of Jesus, said that one of the greatest expressions of following Jesus is when we care for the widows and the orphans. So you want to honor God? Let's care about the kids that God cares about and the women and the moms that God cares about. And we also believe that in the next 5 years, as a church, we could take care, we could provide Christmas for every child in the foster adoption realm, that world. We could provide a Christmas for them in the next 5 years. How about that? You want to do that together? So that these kids who don't have Christmas because of the people of Active who love Jesus. We believe in the next 5 years we could send 500 people to Niños de Baja, the orphanage that we support in Mexico, to serve and to love the children there, and that we would have intentional relationships with them. And in the next 5 years, because we want to be multicultural, we believe we could set aside a few Sundays and be intentional about talking about reconciliation. And not just between those that look like us and sound like us, but those that don't look like us or sound like us. And we could talk about how we can walk hand in hand together and follow Jesus together. We could be quick to listen and slow to speak. How about we practice that, friends? And we believe that we'll get there because of how we care. We want to care for people in really thoughtful and purposeful ways. It's why we do what we do on Tuesday nights and Thursday nights with active youth and active young adults. We believe in 5 years we could average 150 students on our campus every Tuesday and 75 young adults on our campus every Thursday night. And adults, we haven't forgotten about you. We believe that we could be a place of hope and healing and freedom through active recovery, that we would have over 100 people attending in 5 years active recovery, finding freedom from addiction and finding freedom and sobriety and being able to help others do the same thing. We'll get there because of our structure. Around Active, we believe that titles are for paperwork, and we don't throw those titles down because we are in this thing for the long haul. We're not about our thing, we're about this big thing, which is why we need you. We believe in 5 years we could see 1,500 activators serving regularly, weekly with us. That's why we need you on the team. And we're going to get there, be multicultural, multi-generational, because of our accountability. We believe that integrity matters, character matters. And when you choose to be on our teams, we want you to know that you have the freedom to be human and that your mental health, your physical health, your well-being, your marriage, your family, it matters to us. And so when you join a team, you're going to not do that out of obligation. You're going to do that because you're inspired. Today, you can join a team by going to activechurches.com, and there's a link there that you can click that says, get involved. We would love for you to be on a team with us. Man, we believe we're going to get there because God has given us these dreams of being a campus of 2,000, being multi-campus and reaching people that don't look like us or sound like us. And I believe that we'll get there if we're really intentional in 3 areas. That we serve like never before, and we invite like never before, and we give like never before. So would you consider serving with us? Would you consider not just showing up, but being a part of a team? There, again, is a website, activechurches.com, where you can sign up and be a part of a serve team. Begin that process. You could pray with people, or you could greet people, or you could work in front or behind the scenes. The reason why we invite you to the table and want you to serve with us is because your presence matters, your gifting matters, your story matters. Serve like never before, with passion and excitement and joy. Invite like never before. It's why we have what we call the Active 8 card, because we believe that God has intentionally, strategically placed 8 people in your life that you have influence over, that you could invest in, that you could invite, that you could build trust with, that you could love well. And if you can't think of 8, start with 1, because there are 1.7 million people in the surrounding area that don't know Jesus. And in 5 years, we believe that we could see, on average, every year, over 1,000 guest cards. People filling out cards and saying, I want to be a part of what Active is doing. Invite like never before. And I want to invite you to give like never before. It takes all of us to practice generosity to get where we want to go. The resources we receive, we use very wisely and with great care. But if we're going to build the future together, we got to do it together, because what we do, there is a cost to it. Did you know that 34% of our church gives a tithe regularly, either weekly or monthly? Now, I mentioned that we average about 1,000 every weekend. That means 300 of us support what happens for 1,000 of us. Friends, what would happen if we all decided to connect our hearts to our hands? What would happen if we decided to not just give to meet budget, but to give beyond that? We could give away $300,000 through the Dollar Club. We could give away resources like never before to love and to serve our community. And I think a lot of us, when we give like we're tipping. We liked the message, we liked the song, we liked the service, and so we're going to give what's left over. And that gift gets used for great and godly things. But a tithe says, I'm not giving because I felt good or because I liked it. A tithe says, I'm giving because I believe in this and it honors God. And so would you give with us? You can visit our website, activechurches.com. And there, you can click the Give button and you can set up your giving, reoccurring giving if you'd like. Because what we do, it has a cost. If we really believe that we're here for such a time as this, if we really believe that God is up to something, so then let's fully serve and let's fully invest and let's invite and share the vision of what God has done, because isn't it true that there's nothing like this? Isn't it true that there's nothing like Jesus? And isn't it true that there's nothing like the stories that Jesus tells? Like the story of Amanda and her kids. Today I want to finish the conversation and share a great story of a great activator and how God has transformed her life and in turn has transformed the lives of her children. Because there's nothing like this. Friends, here's the better story of Amanda.
Hi, my name is Amanda.
My name is CJ.
My name is Ethan, and this is my better story.
This is my better story.
This is my better story. I was in the beginning of my sobriety, and my neighbor invited me to Active. So I decided to take that invitation. It was probably one of the best choices I've ever made. I was really apprehensive before I got here, and it was uncomfortable and it was awkward, but I think that growth is uncomfortable, and God was really leading me somewhere. I just didn't know where. Finding Active was part of my recovery. Being here is very important to me for my sobriety, but also for my relationship with God. Being here, I feel welcome, I feel loved, I feel accepted. And at the beginning, it was uncomfortable. I was afraid of being judged. I was afraid of not being accepted, not fitting in. But the second I walked on the campus here, that all went out the window. My first step onto the campus, I look over and there's this big man with tattoos and he's, hey, hi, welcome. And he's making sure that I saw him see me. And that was real inviting and real comforting, just to be able to take those nerves away and be accepted and be welcomed just on first sight. I feel like I belong, I feel accepted, I feel seen, I feel heard, and I feel valued. During Rooted, I decided to get baptized, and that was a huge, huge deal for me. It was a very emotional day for me. And it was a very special day for me because I was surrounded by my church family who loves me and values me, and it made it that much more special to me. Everybody here is a reflection of God's love, and I want to be like that too. And everyone here is such an influence, and I want to be like that. And I see myself growing into that. You know, God is really doing great things in this church, and my hope is just to be a part of the great things that they're doing here. You know, I joined the kids ministry, and that is fun. It's, you know, I served at Kids Blitz, and it was like a rave for Jesus, and I just want to live that. It was so much fun, and so just serving with the kids is great, and just being a part of this place, you know, God is doing wonderful things in this place, and I just want to be a part of it.
Thank you, Pastor Mike, for that amazing message and a little glimpse into the future of Active Church. I am so excited personally about what we're going to be doing in our city, in our community, and the surrounding areas, and what God has for us next. And we would love for you to join us on this. And Mike gave us 3 clear directives on how we can do that. We can serve like never before. We can invite like never before. And we can give like never before, because that all goes to growing the mission and vision of God's kingdom and growing Active Church. And so if you're already doing that, thank you so much. And if you're someone who's been on the edge and just hasn't committed to any one of those things before, try it. Jump in, go both feet in, and see how God impacts your life and see how that impacts the people around you. It's going to be an amazing next few years here at Active, and we would love for you to be part of that, whether you're watching online or you're coming to campus. It's going to be an amazing next few years. I cannot wait. So, if you also want to be a part of what we're doing here at Active, you can give. Because last week we just saw 13 amazing people get baptized. And we're so excited for those better stories. And anytime you give and are generous to Active Church, it goes to things like that. It allows us to continue to do those things. And we have over 1,000 baptisms in the last 5 years, and it blows me away. And I'm so humbled to be a part of this journey. But you can too by giving to Active Churches. All you have to do, there's 2 ways to give. You can give online at activechurches.com. You can hit the give button there, and you can set up reoccurring giving like I do, because I know I'll forget if I don't. Or you can text the number on the screen and you can give that way. Both are safe and effective ways to give. And then finally, as we are heading out for this Sunday on Active at Home, I just want to invite you guys. First Step, it's happening October 16th at 10:15 between both of our services. We would love to meet you, especially if you're newer to Active or want to get more connected to what we're doing here. First Step is for you. And it's always better with a friend, so bring a friend along with you. We would love to see you, meet you, and hear your story. Thank you guys so much for joining us this week on Active at Home. We love you guys, and we'll see you next Sunday.